Well, here we go again. John here, Hot Rods in the Woods, trying to figure out how to fix something that somebody else screwed up once again. So, first thing you do when it's in the 40s is you fire up the barrel stove. Hopefully get it up above 48, 50 degrees in here so you can actually work. So we've got it cranking up, getting ready to start throwing the coals to it so it gets good and hot. So, let me grab a light and I'll explain to you what's happening this morning. This is going to be an all-day sucker. I can just feel it. So, as I showed you before, the broken bolts up on the differential rear cover on this Corvette rear suspension. So what I've got to do now is, where did that condenser come from? There's nothing under here needs a condenser, but there's an ignition condenser from somewhere. We'll get it out of the way for now. So here's what's got to happen. I need to get this whole center section loose. Now, up in here are 4 bolts that come in from the top, and that's the top of the rear cover. And I have to remove the cover bolts, remove the rear cover, put it all back together with new stuff, measure my studs, and away we go. In order to do that, I've drained the gas tank already. I siphoned it out. I'll get to clean the soot off the bottom of it while it's out. I need to go ahead and get the gas tank out, and then when I get you guys up top so you can see it, I have to cut holes in that flat piece of tin right there, or steel, so that I can get to the top bolts, because they welded that on after they bolted the cover to the plate. So that'll be fun. So in the meantime, I also have to jack it up. I have to relieve all the tension on the springs, and then I have to remove the bolts, and also I can drop the spring out. So step 1, jack the car, take the car down, pull the fuel tank out. Then I'll go ahead and get back underneath it. I'll jack up the sides and go from there. Probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my jack slider here and try and get on the frame rails right alongside of where the fuel tank was. See if we can't get a jack up there, or a stand or something. I may be able to get something right between where the fuel tank is and all on that rail right there. See if that'll hold the back of the car up. So I'm going to go ahead and put you guys on the stand. I'm going to drop this thing down, get up on top, we'll pull the gas tank out, and we'll figure out where to go from there. So I'll be back. Okay, so now I've got you in the back here. What we're going to do first is we have to pull off this bar, which is the only bumper on the back of this car. We're going to pull off the lights, let them hang from the wires, because we've got to do something with that anyway. And then we're going to go ahead and release the gas tank, slide it back, unhook the hoses, and then we'll be able to see what we're dealing with back there. So I'll just go ahead and well, start working. You actually get to see me work for a minute. Now, the reason I'm wearing gloves right now is for no other reason other than it's cold in here. I'm wearing a t-shirt because I do get a little warm, but my hands are still cold. So I'm going to zap this a little bit. Just get them loose to start with. Saw a neat video yesterday, as I watch everybody else's videos, about what's the torquiest tools. And believe it or not, Bauer came in out of about 25 of them, third behind the baddest ass DeWalt that they make. I was pretty pleased with that. Of course, the difference is I can buy 3 of these for the price of that DeWalt. So I'm happy. And let's be realistic here. If the little screw gunny impact driver doesn't get it, we have bigger tools. So it's not like we're at a shortage for stuff. Alright, so there's part of it. I guess I'll go ahead and take this one off. There's a pretty good load on this still, and the gloves won't work because they just don't. Oh, there's a really good one on it. pair of wire cutters. Well, of course I left my knife over on the other side. We'll let her hang by the wires for a minute. And then we'll get the stuff and go ahead and do that. I just realized that now that I'm back here, I don't have my microphone. So I'll go ahead and put that on in a minute. Oh, wrong way. Let's go all the way around. This thing only screws one way. I don't know why. It just comes loose. I might not have the bottom half tight enough. So let me zap this other side off and we will see where we're at. So once again, the inside bolts don't have a lock washer on them, which, I don't know. I mean, you could at least go with a Nylox or something, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be a lock washer and a nut. You could use a Nylox. It is kind of tight and whole, but it's not gonna deter you from putting a lock washer on. Or using a lock nut if your dexterity is a little weak and you can't finagle that. So we'll go ahead and change that while we've got it apart. All right, so this magic chrome bar is now out of the way. We will lean it over here somewhere. So now we can see the gas tank and the bolts for it. Or 9/16, or 3/8 then. So we'll go ahead and, you know, this is not going to be fun. And then we have to do the top one. Oop. Yank it in there. Okay, so I got all the way back here. Still forgot my knife or my nippers. So I'm going to continue on and loosen up these bolts. So let's do that. Yep. I know some of you are wondering, why are you working on this one when you've got the pickup over here and then you've got the 409 that's got issues? Well, when the guy that owns all three of these cars, same guy, says, I want to do this one first, that's what you do. You know, I'm kind of stuck with the 28 pickup sitting in the way here. But what do, right? Well, that's nice. You don't think they were smart enough to weld a nut in a frame, do you? No, hell no. All right, so there's the first one loose. Now, another thing I'm going to say is this build is a really good build on this car. But at the same time, I think that there was some issues. Sometimes it's the builder. Sometimes it's the owner. Whichever the case, 90% of this build is really nice. There is a little bit of an issue, as we know, with the differential cover, but I mean, really, well, this side only has one bolt. Well, that's easier. The underneath is beautiful. I mean, but a lot of times you'll find, there we go. You'll find that at the very end, especially if it's an owner builder, that they really want to get it done. And when they really want to get it done, that's when little things go wrong. A perfect example is this differential cover. Now, they may have known, I'm sure they probably did know, that you can't weld cast iron. But is it cast iron or is it forged steel? So they go up in there and they try it. And then, I don't know, there's a possibility that the gentleman had already passed away and didn't get underneath the car again to realize that the weld's already broke. Okay, so we're going to back this out just a little bit. And then we're going to see that we have some issues with with hoses. All right, I'm gonna have to go get a light. Okay, so I'm back. Let's see what we were dealing with here. It seems that it's not full of fuel. All right, so we're gonna have a little bit of work to do here. We've got some issues. Is that metal? Yes, it is. So what we have is a steel line right here that has to come unhooked. And we have a line here, which I can only assume is the vent that goes brilliantly up inside the cab. So we'll go ahead and get those off. I'll grab a little something to fix these with, and we'll get this tank out. So, as I sneak back through. Okay, so we were about ready to pull fuel lines and stuff. We'll put a rag on here so as not to scratch the paint. That worked pretty well. We'll take off this vent if we can get to it, which I believe that I can. All right, vent line is off. And we're probably going to get a little bit of fuel out of this, I would imagine. When I get this apart, when I go back together, I'll do a little better explanation, but I'll say this now. Sorry about this raspy cough, I've still got it. When you put fuel lines together, you've got a tank like this right here. Why would you go from here to a steel line to a rubber hose back over to a steel line when this thing is mounted solid? It's not mounted in rubber, it's mounted solid to the frame. So you use a piece of steel line from here all the way to the fuel pump. It's not like this is moving around. You can use a short piece of line here, but if you do, just use a regular fitting and then a hose fitting on the other end. He's got a piece of line here that, well, that came loose quite easily. And we'll see how much of a mess we make. So as I undo this, one of the major things that nobody likes to do on hot rods is wiring. So I grabbed a piece of pink wire here that's attached to the fuel gauge, and it's just unhooked. Then I come over here to the harness, and here's wire for the fuel gauge, and it's not hooked up. I don't know where the ground's hooked. We'll find that out in a few minutes. First, I'm going to go ahead and undo the ground. And yes, I did just bring a pair of pliers because I forgot. But that's okay because the connectors he used, I would never use anyway. So we're going to change them even if I have to cut the wire. Because he used a, I don't know if you can see that. Try to do it with one hand here. These are a no-no. If you over tighten them, they spread out, they fall, they touch the other friggin' post. Before you know it, you've got issues. So always use an eyelet connector that's right for the hole. Can't be too big, because this is what's carrying, it's what's holding the eyelet. that being said, use the right stuff. I mean, it only takes a minute to do it right. It can take you 10 to repair, or even worse, you could have a whole pile of garbage when you're done because you didn't use the right connector and you burned the whole car up. Bad plan. So now the gas tank is totally loose. So we're going to take a couple of our fine rags, move our bolts and stuff out of the way over here, and all in one nice neat pile. And then we'll get the gas tank out of the way if we can. Now I will tell you that this is a job I have not done before. I mean, obviously I've replaced fuel tanks, take tanks out and all, but I've never had to pull one apart to put the vet pieces back together that were broken. I've always put the whole unit in. So this could be interesting. Oh, and that, of course that ground just got caught. All right, let's fold you in half. All right, here we go. Good news is, feels like the tank's only got a couple gallons of fuel in it, because I'm getting old, and they get heavier. Okay, now we can start to see what we're dealing with. Let me get you in here, you can see, and then I'm going to have to revamp everything. All right, so here's my top two bolts. Two of them. There's two hiding up behind here. And I've got to get at those two as well. So I have the floor out of the way, but there's two more bolts. I don't know if you can see them now. You can't even see them. But they're way up in there. So I don't know if I can get through here, although I doubt it. I don't know how I'm going to do that. The spring is already loose, so now I've got to relieve the pressure to it. So I'm going to put a jack on my jack plate. I'm going to see if I can't get a jack stand on each side here and here to relieve the pressure on the spring so that the spring will drop out. And once the spring is loose, then hopefully I'll be able to drop that down. And as I do that, of course, it ain't exactly light, so I've got to support the front of it. So I'm not quite sure how all of this is going to come to play. But you're going to be with me and we're going to figure it out, so stand by. All right. Let's get you in here. Get you out. So, in all of their brilliance, they have welded a plate right on top of where I need to get. You can just see that bolt hiding in there. I may be able to get in there with a swivel and get them out. Those two self-tappers will come out because that's somehow a bracket that's attached to this bar to shim down or just hold up something. I don't know what. But it really doesn't do anything. I guess it's kind of like the body base support. So we'll figure that out. But in the meantime, I have to figure out how to jack this up. As of yet, I don't have a brilliant plan. Everything is in flux. Everything is fiberglass. So we're not finding what we need there. So basically what needs to happen is those bolts need to come out. These bolts need to come out. Then the bolts around the differential cover after I drain it. Then I just have to put the new cover on after I paint it, put it all back together. Sounds simple. As you can see, this wiring is kind of hokey back here, so we'll deal with that at the same time. I'm going to go ahead and get all of this mess loose and get it out of the way, because this is a Michel Mousset way of doing things. So those appear to be 3/8, so we'll get those. Those are 3/8 as well, and we'll start tearing some more apart. So I wasn't going to bother to show you this as I just cut this wire loom loose, but then I ran across this. Oh, and what do you imagine that's for? Let's have a look-see. I have wires in it. Pretty good size wires. Let's see what these wires say. And why would they just crimp them off? It's a dome light. A trunk light. And backup lights. And they've all just been jammed together. Buried under the floor too, by the way, because that is the floor. Right there, hunk of tin. So I'm going to get a better light in here. Then we're going to figure out what we need to do with some of this stuff. This is pretty weird. Pretty weird. There's some interesting stuff going on in here too. This is like half fiberglass and half steel, which is rather interesting. There's steel and there's fiberglass. And of course the top half's fiberglass, but this is steel. So the bottom half is steel. That's fiberglass, but the bottom half, it's got strangeness happening. So anyway, let's go back to the problem at hand. Now that I've got the wiring out of the way, kind of, sort of. What is this now? Oh, there's another one. All right, we're going to get rid of this self-tapper too. I'm going to get this wiring completely out of the way because I just don't like it. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll get back with you. And normally, well, not normally. Nothing's normal. So there's a reason that people bring their stuff to me. One of them is I'm not the most ridiculously expensive shop on the planet. I do this just more as a hobby than anything. And number two is I save people from killing themselves. And once again, so right after I put you guys on pause the last time, I go and notice this. This is the entire rear that holds the gas tank and the rear bumper in. I'm going to go ahead and remove this, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But I just don't understand how people can think that this stuff is okay. He paid money for this. This is not a cheap little piece of equipment here. And I'm gonna have to smack that up out of the way. Apparently the bolt is stuck. There we go. Held in with carriage bolts. So it had two carriage bolts. And then it's sandwiched in between a piece of tin on the rear differential. I cannot believe that someone would think that that would be safe. There we go with a little bit of gas. Of course, my taillight wires are now jammed because they're all wire tied in place. We'll cut those. That should be all of that. Ah, shit. Ah. Get out of there. Danger, danger, Will Robinson. This is a mess. Sometimes it's really hard to work alone. Other times it's a godsend. There we go. So, this eases up a few things. By removing that, I can now get out all my bolts. Okay, change there so you can see another look. So there's my bolts are a little better. This little piece right here, that little piece of 1/8" angle iron is holding the whole ass end of this car together. So needless to say, we're going to fix that. And another thing that I find very interesting as I go through all of this is 30 amp fuses. Blown. That's a good one. That's a good one. There's fuses laying all over the floor. Blown. Which tells me that the wiring guy didn't know what he was doing when it came to wiring. Blown. Scary, ain't it? That one doesn't appear to be blown. That one doesn't appear to be blown. That one doesn't appear to be blown. So these three are blown. These three appear to be good. So he was doing something seriously wrong. So all right, we're going to continue on with where we're at. We're going to go ahead and yank these bolts out here. Yank these bolts out here after I get this thing suspended. And we're going to hope that it all comes apart nicely. I don't know for sure that it will. I think what I need to do is support well, I can't. So if I support the chunk from the front member here, that's going to cause it to roll forward. I have to suspend the body is what I need to do. I was planning on using that red brace, but now that I know how it attaches, I wouldn't have trusted it. So I'm going to have to put a 4x4 across the frame up here somewhere and jack it up that way. So stand by. We're going to figure this thing out. All right, so we're back up underneath the car. Now I'm going to kind of explain to you what we have to do. You're going to have to look at my big head a little bit, but here's what's going to happen. So when I remove the bolts in the back of this differential right here, this is all going to try and come down. Now, this is attached to the wheels, so it's going to try and push the wheels out, which it really can't do. Everything's going to just move a little bit. The problem I have is somehow or another I have to suspend the frame, because if I don't, all of this is going to try and fall out. That's not a good plan. So what I've got to do, I have to jack it up to release the pressure on the springs so that I can remove the cotter pins that I just put in and get this spring loose. Once the spring is loose, then I can drop this down a little ways and I can get it to where it needs to be so I can work on that cover. So what I have to do is get my two big jack stands. I'm going to have to put them here and here. That's the only thing I can come up with. And if I put them there and there, then I'm going to have to deal with them just being in the way. It ain't going to be fun. But that's the only way that I can see that I can make this happen. Because I'm going to have to put this up here so I can put my little jack under here just to help me out. So first things first, get my jack stands in. I don't know how far forward I can go. If I could get them up in here, it'd be nice. I'd at least have a little bit of working room back here. So let's move forward and see what we can do with all of that mess. Get the wiring out of the way. That's just a beautiful gob of garbage. I need to look at this while I'm here, because I tagged these. They had these two wires hooked together. This is the right high beam wire. What the hell did he have here? Could he not read? That says brake switch. Alright, so this is all gonna... Now what does this say? Brake switch power. Brake switch. Alright, so what he did was he took a piece of green wire, hooked it to a piece of orange wire. He's got splices all through here to make this all happen. I see what he did. I don't like it at all, but I see what he did. I can fix that. I can take a piece of the extra orange wire that says third brake light and cross that out, and at least it'll be orange to orange. Lord. Okay, back to where we were. So, let's get one of my jack stands up in here and see where that's going to put us. It may just work. The problem with it is if I go too far forward, yeah, I've got to be like right in here. There's no weight in the back of this car, so let's see what happens. We'll grab one while I'm recording, and you can see my thought process. Ooh, that's a nice fire. Better save this hunk of orange wire now, huh? We'll just toss it up in the car for now. At least I know where it is. Yeah, we'll put it right there. Doesn't matter. Okay. Now, this is going to have to be below the exhaust pipe. Ow. Don't hit yourself in the back of the hand with that. Oh, this wasn't the best of planning here. Okay, now let's see what happens. Have I got enough to get there? I can only hope. And of course I don't. So, I can't go up more. It's block of wood time. Alright, so we got some of these going in the background just trying to stuff out. Everything makes sense. So here's what I'm going to do. I have 4x4. Excuse me. Oh, piece of wood. I'm going to try and get under here. Right side. If I'm just correct. That's very close. If I can handle it in there. It's just my block a little in the way. So if I do it there, it's still clear of the drive shaft. And maybe, just maybe, I can get her up in the air enough to release the springs. All of the weight in this car is on that side of this tail shaft. I mean, obviously, the top half of the body is fiberglass, and it ends, what, 3 feet to the back? There's 5 feet to the front, 6 feet to the front, and it's all motor, transmission, front suspension. So maybe, just maybe, this will happen. We'll know in a minute. Now look, guys, as you know, this is rather sketchy. So be safe. Make sure your lift is on its ratchets. In fact, I should check and just make sure that it's on the locks. Because if it's not, and it is, we don't want to be flopping the lift around. Cables getting goofed up or something like that and making a hell of a mess. And I'm only going to go up far enough just to release that spring. Do I like this? Not at all. But there's really no way to do this. It'd be easier with the body off. All right, so now we're going to go up a little bit. We're going to watch back here. At the same time, we're going to watch everything in the front. Okay, the back is going up. Front is going up a little bit. Let's just confirm that I'm not touching the drive shaft, and I am not. Now all I'm looking for is my bolts here to be loose. As soon as they're loose, we can lock everything in place. Not sure what that was, but I didn't like it. That's what it was. Boy, she's so close. So what do we do from here, guys? I'm scared and I'm saying it. There's no place in the ass end to jack this thing up. I guess the next thing to do is to try releasing one side of these cotter pins and loosen up the nut a little bit. I want y'all to remember that if this was done right in the first place, I wouldn't have to be worrying about this shit. And this is the kind of stuff where it just makes no sense not to do it right. Oh, this is brutally screwed up. So now what I have to do is I've got to get on here and I've got to try and release these springs. So we'll do that next. I would really like to have something, some sort of support out here, but I just can't. There's just no way to get her on the lift. Because even with the jack stand all the way in, there's just no safe way to get it not to roll off the edge. It would be different if I was going the other way, if I was trying to jack it up to differential, but I'm not. All right, well, there's only one way to find out what's going to happen, and that's to do it. This should be playing Fluff a Duck. Okay, 7/8. And we may get lucky. Let's see. I think that's 13/16. And we're back. With more trouble. It appears that there's a possibility that these bolts are stripped toward the bottom. I couldn't get them to turn. So now we're on to heavier equipment. I think I can get the gym in here somehow. Just maybe. Oh, jeez, I'm going to go on that. And that's what I got. All right, so I'm going to put this. Where can you get the gym in there? I don't know if that works. Let's look at another side. I'm not having fun anymore. I don't like it when plans don't come together. And I sure don't like working on stuff that... Whoa. You guys okay? Huh. That shouldn't need worked on in the first place. This is the NFL, the No Fun League. Oh. Well, there's that one loose. Now let's see if I can get the other one. They shouldn't snap and pop like that. They should just be easy to deal with. What I'm hoping for is as I get this closer to the bottom, I see some airspace. Nothing there so far. All right, so now this one is going to lay up against the tire. This is feeling good. All right. This side, I have space between the washers. However, I do not have, it's not free yet. It's like the washers may be bound. So we will see. I think I'm recording. Okay, it's not turning, so let's just use the wrench. Now, why aren't you? Okay, you're gonna pop, ain't you? There you go. All right, you're seeing what I'm seeing. We're just gonna real gently kind of work it down. I hope. So I had to go get a hammer. And this is why every Snap-on dealer on the planet hates mechanics. Because they know we're using our screwdrivers as chisels constantly. There's still a good bit of tension on this. I can feel it. So we're going to go to half of that. Yeah, that's it. Oh, goodness. That's how you get it back together. So, everything's in flux. I've got a little more stress than down, so a little more here. See, it's not good. There it is again. I'm going to power. Just start trying out one side. Maybe then I can see how much tension I've got. Is it a great shitload? Or is it just a little? So doesn't tell me anything. I can really like it too. I mean, keep in mind, this thing holds up the whole ass end of a Corvette. And I can't really see back here because of the light in my eyes. I don't believe that there's a shitload on it. And part of the reason I say that is because the upper bushings don't appear to be close to the friggin' thing. But then again, they don't appear to be centered in the hole either. I can move them, but this one's still jammed down in the hole. I don't know, guys. What I need to do is I need to get something in here. Let's see if maybe, just maybe, my littlest of floor jacks will give me enough to get one side out. If I get one side, then obviously the other side won't be jammed tight because it'll fall down. A controlled fall, we hope. All right, there we go, shit in the way. Obviously, this video is not going to be for kids. I apologize for that in advance. No, I don't. This is me. This is how I talk. Save the socket. No, I'm not going to put much on this. If I can just get it past. Oh, there's still a lot on there. I don't know what it is. Look if I fall. Okay, here comes the sketchiest part. I'm outside the lift. I'm coming down slowly. I hope. We're going to see if it doesn't release that spring without shit flying everywhere. Now, what happened? Nothing. And there, ladies and gentlemen, is why we're always cautious. So as you saw, there was a shitload more spring tension on that than I thought. Luckily, everything has stopped falling now. And amazingly, I didn't destroy this taillight, and I did just find out that they use bullet connectors on it instead of crimps like it looked, so we'll get rid of that. Now you see why I'm so cautious. Jacks are easy to replace. Appendages, not so much. Nor things with a heartbeat, like me. So that is an absolute reason why you need to be safe. Now, I obviously couldn't use a ratchet strap because you can't release a ratchet strap slowly. What I probably could have done, and we're still going to have to figure out what the hell to do with this thing in order to... there's still tension on it. Not really. We're going to check it though. Oh yeah. There is still tension, guys. I'm laying way down here.